In the beginning, you do not succeed. Don't feel your efforts were all in vain. A little more determination is all you may need. Success only comes after heavy strain. Sometimes we have to do it over and over again before we begin to see the light. Difficulties are ever present, just like the sun and the rain. One day we're going to learn to do it. Till then we gotta try again. Try not to complain. Learn to bear the strain. Trials and tribulation is there for everyone. The problems that we face each day, we should never let it stay. Don't let complacency blow you away. I said try, never give in. No pain. You could be complicated, and you could get damn frustrated, but then hold steadfast. A little time will pass. Try again, you will succeed. Do not exclusively, but especially the young. They want easy answers for everything. The preachers and the teachers oh, what a job they have explained. Showing the young people how they must persevere more and more, convincing them life is hard but it's sweet. Self-discipline and application is the key to be gone before they could reach some easy street. Till then you gotta try again. Try not to complain. Learn to bear the strain. Life is what you make of it. Stop telling me you can't do it. Destiny is in your hand, totally at your command. The only thing now is you to understand. You must try again. Never give in. No pain, no pain. Stand up erect, don't falter. Like the rock of Gibraltar, yes, be courageous. If necessary, be all Jesus. In the end, you will succeed. Alone. Children today, some of them just go, some just go. How they go into school merely for fun. Some of them may even have a book in the bag. Security guard catching them with guns. Serious violence has increased, and there's no respect from father, no love from son. Your children showing a weird sense of pride in the evil they done, praising who had the most abortion. You gotta try again. Try not to complain. Learn to bear the strain. To yourself you must be honest. Then you could find happiness like the Negro college test. And I hope I quote it straight. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. You must try. Never give in. No pain, no gain. Go into school with weapons. Could only bring self-destruction without no reward. You might be a great warlord. Still the pen is mightier than the sword. Bada, 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 bada. Bada, bada, ya, da, da, da. Do, 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 de, de, abado, di, 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 bada. Do, 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 de, bada, de, da. Ay, ay, ay. Mami, oh. Get up and be responsible to yourself. Stop acting like the world you are living. Your quality of life depends upon you, no one else. Integrity comes from deep within. The disadvantages you may have had as a youth growing up makes you feel that you must play tit for tat. But whether it was child abuse, mental cruelty, or what, it must stop. You can't spite others because of that. You gotta try again. Try not to complain. Learn to face the strain. None of us have to suffer. The mind perceive, surely it can be achieved. Stop doubting yourself and say, I believe I go try again. Never give in. No pain, no gain. When you come to me now, you come making no road. Hold steadfast. A little time will come. Try again, you will succeed. I love. Get up and be responsible to yourself. Stop acting like the world you are living. Your quality of life depends upon you, no one else. Integrity comes from deep within. The disadvantages you may have had as a youth growing up makes you feel that you must play tit for tat. But whether it was child abuse, mental cruelty, or what, it must stop. You can't spite others because of that. You gotta try again. Try not to complain. Learn to face the strain. None of us have to suffer. We could control the future for whatever the mind perceives. Surely it can be achieved. Stop doubting yourself and say, I believe I go rise again. Never give in. No pain, no gain. When you come to me now, you come making no road. Hold steadfast. A little time will pass. Try again, you will succeed. I love. Da 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 da. Do 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 da da da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Certain Calypsonian couldn't make it to the show. How they didn't qualify, we don't know. But anywhere you pass, you hear people calling, no! How to treat little good Alan so. After he captured the hearts of all the people, young and strong, the selectors, they still leave him out. But he is young, and I hope that he wouldn't take it to heart. Next year he could make another start. Till then he gotta try again. Try not to complain. Learn to bear the strain. I know it is heart rendering. Don't think about surrendering, no. But you gotta hold on tight. Everything will be alright. What happened in the dark will come to light if you try. Never give in. No pain, no gain. Show them you could take it in stride, and you have youth on your side. Hold steadfast. A little time will pass. Try again, you will succeed. At last.
The Mighty Sparrow, Dr. Slinger Francisco, the greatest of them all. Try again, we try. Get up, dust yourself off, and go again. Quite apt for those of us who find ourselves on the so-called losing end of the election. Try again. Keep trying. Politics is not just about elections. It's broader than that. We must try. Keep trying. It's difficult, very difficult to experience the kind of loss that the APNU especially suffered. You know that the elections were rigged, and then some of your loyal supporters thought otherwise. It's difficult to console people, and one has to understand that. I do. Today I ventured into Georgetown. I had some errands to run. In the middle of Georgetown on Regent Street. I tried to avoid the middle of Georgetown, but Regent Street today, there must be some things going on. It was quite not as heavily populated with cars and other vehicles. Um, but as usual, people see you, and that is why I love being Guyanese. I love being West Indian. Um, People saw me and wanted to talk, wanted to chat. One lady said, "I only want 1 minute because I know other people want to talk to you." Some offered congratulations, some offered sympathy, some offered words of encouragement. One lady broke down crying. One lady broke down crying. An artist who I met in the supermarket and leaned over with me over the little refrigerator thing they have there. And she said she cried for the first time in a long time when the APNU did not get the result. And she said, "Dr. Hines, I'm offering you some philosophical thoughts." She's an artist, and artists are philosophers. Or the young lady in the supermarket who saw me trying to read the label came over and read it for me. Or the other young lady who went to school with my son, one of my sons, and she wanted to say that she is not big in politics, but she felt so let down. The woman who I bought stuff from in the meat section of Border Market, and as she weighed and cut up the meat, she gave me a lecture. And that is why I played this song tonight. She said, "We must have hope. We must not give up." She's referenced what she thought was, what she think is some frustration that is going on. Yes, it is difficult to suffer the kind of loss that the APNU suffered and not be emotional about it. Mankind, human beings, we are emotional beings. People try to say emotion is a bad thing. We are emotional beings. Some people juxtapose emotion against reason. One of the things that they used to justify slavery was that Black people, African people, are emotional people. We are not fully developed. We act based on emotions, while other people, white people, Europeans, act based on reason. And that was a strong argument up to the 19th century, the 20th century, sorry, up until the 1900s, that African people are emotional beings and they lack reason. They don't reason. They act emotionally. And I've seen that places. Of course, it's loaded with racism, because that's what racism is. because those people are arguing that black people are not fully developed human beings. That the fully developed human being is one who, the human being who is able to suppress their emotions and privilege reason. But as I said, human beings are reasoned human beings, reasonable human beings. They reason, they're intelligent, but they're also emotional. And sometimes one doesn't know where emotion stops and where reason begins. But we know reason and emotion are all wrapped up in the human spirit. So it is understandable for people who feel that the system cheated them, and as many of them said, their own children acted in ways that are harmful to the collective. Thank you to the lady who saw me in the supermarket and said, Dr. Hines, I want to buy you something to celebrate your ascension to the National Assembly. And I think I chose a Lucozade. That thing, Lucozade, been around, and I never drank it until recently. Some of my friends from America, they said, well, they don't want to sport on beer, they want to sport on Lucozade, and I drank a couple of weeks ago. But thanks to that lady who celebrated with me as others have, we are emotional beings. And the presence of emotion doesn't mean the absence of reason. Or the presence of reason doesn't mean the absence of emotion. Human beings are intelligent and emotional. And so the emotions that are expressed by the supporters of the APNU must be understood. Let us cry. Let us curse at the bottom of our voice if we must. When something that is abnormal happens, we search for the reason. Martin Carter says, when we wake up in the morning, we search for birds and sunlight. And when you wake up one morning and there are no birds and there is no sunlight, you ask why? Why? I first became a political activist at age 15, 1974. I was still a schoolboy and got involved in village politics. In those days, we had what was called the Buxton Youth Council, which was the youth version of the village council. And we would meet at the village hall once a week as though we were council members. And the council was made up of representatives of all the youth group in the village. I remember Colin Gardner, who's now in England. He was the chairman of the youth council. And they had people like Kwesi and Kofi and John Cromwell and others, But we were little boys and girls. And that's where my politics started. By 1979, the WP had come into being, and I was a member at the start. And I continued as a political activist to this day. 51 years. And I've suffered so many electoral losses. The WP, of course, contested for the first time In 1985, we lost. 1992, we lost. 1997, we lost. 2001, we lost. 2006, we did not contest in 2006. 2011, we won because we were part of the APNU, which got a majority in the parliament, although it lost the president. 2015, we won. 2020, we lost. 2025, we lost. If you count the number of elections from 1974, I have been on the losing side more than 90% of the time. And so, in a sense, people like myself view an electoral loss differently. But make no mistake, when I am in my quiet moments for the last 3 weeks, sometimes I felt sad. I ask myself questions, but never have I felt defeated. Yes, the emotions are there because you know that you're cheated. And you know that your young people, some of them, made decisions that made sense to them, I am sure. But when one look at the larger arc of history, that which makes sense to them in the present may well not be consistent with what, as old people say, what the doctor ordered. But I say those younger people who made the decision that caused the APNU and the APNU family to be in a kind of mourning state, that rationality by our young people may have its irrationality attached to it. There's a little bit of what the artists tell me today, philosophy, that something could be rational and irrational at the same time. The old Marxists used to say, is the equal of opposites, the dialectics. Something, you are born, and the day you're born, you begin to die. Dialectics. That which is rational could also be irrational. Professor Nettleford used to say, but you are right, but you're also wrong. We poor people, oppressed people, always have to operate at several levels at the same time because we have to survive. There's a way in which we have to engage the system that is oppressing us because we have to survive. That we are trying to get rid of the system that is oppressing us even as we engage that system. And I suppose our young people are dealing with that dilemma. How do we survive in this Babylonian system while trying to get rid of Babylon? How do we eat a bread or look for it, as the young people say these days, while trying to overthrow that system? I'm saying that to say, I'm trying to get us to understand, to get into the collective minds of those young people who left and voted for Win. It is going to be the question, and I hope our scholars younger scholars especially, engage that question. I'm disappointed with the way the media handles it. As I said last night, the media, some of them, and some of the commentators, ethnic voting patterns are over. That's what they want. And they look at something and say, that's what it is. I noticed one of the media houses quoted from me last night, in which I say ethnic voting patterns are the same, and all that Africans did was to create a second African party. And while that is accurate, someone who's looking at that without seeing the program could come to some conclusions, because Guyana is a fickle place. Because what I actually said was that you cannot come to a conclusion, and you all were here, that racial voting patterns are over when one racial group moved some of its votes to another party, but the other racial group did not move its vote. And that is what that media house should have put there, because that was the explanation. But you know, media like headlines, and the essence of what I explained what vote in the first place. Something don't happen one time and you call it a pattern. But to be fair to some of them, they didn't say it was a pattern. They said it is likely witnessing the end of people voting race. Very simple. Well, to me, but it's obviously not as simple to others. 80% of the people who voted for the PPP are of one race. 80% and more of the people who voted for APNU are of one race. 80% of the people who voted for WIN are of one race. 80% of the people who voted for Forward Guyana are of one race. 80% of people who voted for AFC are of one race. 80% of people who voted for ALP are of one race. How can that be that racial voting patterns are changed? If you are saying that when a critical mass of people vote for a party, then that party becomes an ethnic party and they're voting race. Clearly, East Indian people, 80%, 90% and more of East Indian voters feel that their interest is best served by the PPP. More than 90% of the people who voted for APNU feel that their interest is best served by the APNU, and they are Africans. More than 80% of people who voted for WIN are Africans, and they feel that their interests are best served by WIN. The same is true for Forward Guyana. The same is true. A critical mass of ethnic people put their votes one party. If you had 40,000 Indians voting for WIN, along with the 80,000 Africans, then you could say, okay, Indians and Africans are moving away from their ethnic parties and they're voting for something else. That did not happen. So you can't say ethnic voting patterns have changed. If I were teaching a class on politics, I would say to my students, one race gave its vote to one party. The other race gave its votes to 6 parties, because some Africans did vote for the PPP. The academic question, the political question, is why Africans spread their vote around to 6 parties And why Indians kept their vote to one party? That is the question. And that question doesn't have anything to do with voting patterns. That question has to do with voting behavior. That is the question journalists, opinion shapers should be asking. But no, they're not asking that question. They're saying ethnic voting patterns. One ethnic group said, I ain't left in me party. And another ethnic group said, well, I can spread my vote around. And voting patterns are over. It's flawed. It's a flawed reasoning, flawed conclusion. As I said, the question must be asked. Why one ethnic group stayed put and the other ethnic group look at 6 parties? They gave the bulk of their votes to 2, and then they gave a little to 4. If you're interested in these elections, and they're fascinating, this election was fascinating. Then you would ask that question. That is the question to be asked. What is it about the African that their electoral behavior, could it be that Africans are more plural in their electoral behavior and Indians tend to be more singular? So I would say to my students, that's a research question. Go do your research and tell me what your findings are. You can proffer an hypothesis, as we would say in academics. Is it that Africans are more plural? It looks so to the naked eye. But you still have to go and do your research, because you have to find out what is it in the minds of Africans that most of them, 90% of them, could give their votes to 2 parties. And then about a 5% spread their vote to the other 4. Fascinating question. What does it tell us about the 2 ethnic groups? Or one could say, why one ethnic party, PPP, in the face of this new phenomenon that is called WIN? WIN is a phenomenon. I hear people saying WIN is a party, it's a movement, it may be all of those things, but it's a phenomenon. It's a new phenomenon. And a research question could be, why the Indian party was able to stave off the threat of this phenomenon, and the African party, a la APNU, along with Forward Guyana and AFC and ALP, they were, as far as I'm concerned, they were all one party in a coalition. They were just divided. Why they were not able to stave off this phenomenon? That's a fascinating question. What is it that the PPP did to stave off that phenomenon, and that the APNU didn't? I listened to Jack Dio with all his ranting and his cussing and his going on. He said something. He said, when the PPP realized that WIN was on TikTok and social media influencing young people, they went to the Indian youth and they pulled them off social media. These are my words, not exactly his words. And they brought them to PPP meetings and they educated them. And he was in the reverse saying APNU didn't do that. So Jagio gives you an insight into how he dealt, how the PPP dealt with this phenomenon that was so seductive to young people. If you follow Jagio's reasoning, then you can argue that this seduction of young people to this new phenomenon could be curtailed. I would like to know what Jack Dio and the PPP told those young Indians. I have a sense. I have a sense of what they told them. I have a sense of what they told them. And based on what my sense of what they told them, I know that the APNU didn't tell our youths that. Could it say something about the elites? The Indian political elite and the African political elites? Are there differences? Many of you would know that it was not until the last couple of weeks before election day that we, in the leadership of the APNU, began to push back somewhat against the wind phenomenon. What may have happened that we began to push back earlier, and I said we because I was part of the decision making that decided that we were not going to go aggressive against wind. Clearly the PPP had a plan and it worked for them. Some of their youths, a sprinkling of them, voted win. Those are questions we have to ask. That is what Sparrow is saying in that thing. Look, you got to check this thing out. And I was hoping that our agents of socialization, like the media, the opinion shapers, the political leaders, have this kind of frank discussion, rather than arriving at these conclusions that, how can you look at something just happened 2 weeks ago and come to all these conclusions? Ethnic voting patterns done. Pattern is something that happens over time. And for those who are asking, could this mark the beginning of ethnic voting patterns? Then you have to ask the question, what changes ethnic voting patterns in ethnically divided society? And I can tell you, if someone who taught race and ethnicity, I had a course that I taught for decades, race, ethnicity, and politics. In no ethnic society, none, in no ethnic society has ethnic voting patterns ever changed. So if people are saying it's going to change in Guyana, it will be the miracle. It never changed. You're talking to a scholar who studied this, wrote on it, taught it. In no ethnically divided society like Guyana has ethnic voting patterns ever changed. And that is why the societies, the ethnically divided societies that have been able to become stable societies and democratic societies are those that accept that ethnic voting patterns is a fact in ethnically divided societies. And they search for solutions accommodating that fact. A place like Switzerland, which is one of the most stable societies in the world, but that's an ethnically divided society. And they have a power sharing arrangement in which each ethnic group is guaranteed representation in the government. And they have a rotating presidency. Each person representing the ethnic group is part of the presidency, 4 of them. And they rotate the presidency. They accept, they're all white people, but they are divided ethnically based on language. And they're stable. So they're ethnically divided societies that are stable. Our neighbor over there in Suriname has accepted that. They've accepted that ethnic voting patterns is a fact of life. Guyana is a strange place. The elites in this country want to get rid of ethnic voting patterns. Something that is endemic to ethnically divided societies. And if they study, as I did, as I do, they study ethnicity and race and politics, they would know that it has never happened in God's world. It has never. And that is part of our problem in Guyana. The elites are afraid. Certainly the African elites. I think the Indian elites know, and they know the benefits of ethnic voting patterns. I think the African elite plays around. I think they know, but they play around with it. Ethnic voting patterns will remain in Guyana. And that is why I said that our younger people, and not so young people, I'm sure there's some older people who voted for Win. What they have done is created a second ethnic party, a second African party, a second Black party. And people are making heavy weight of the leader of the party. And again, people don't understand the concept of race. There is what you call people who are phenotypically Black. Those of us who are African, Black, dark skin, phenotype. But there's also people who are ideologically Black. They're not phenotypically Black. They may be white people. They may be Indian people. But they embrace the African ideology, Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, the notion of the Black personality. And so while they're not phenotypically Black, they're ideologically Black. I remember Walter Rodney once said, when Fidel Castro, a white man, sent troops, Cuban troops, all the way to Africa, into Angola, to beat back the white racist apartheid army that had invaded Angola. And Walter Rodney said, Fidel Castro is the blackest man in the world. He took up the African cause, the Black cause. He's phenotypically white, but he fought on the side of Africans. And so while he's phenotypically white, he's ideologically Black. And the point I am making about the Indian man is that those Black people who voted for Muhammad, they have designated him their leader. They have blackened him. Many of them will say, well, we didn't vote race. But you do vote race. Because you did vote race. Because the Indian party, the PPP, you didn't vote for them. And you say you didn't want them and you want to get rid of them. So you end voting for the Indian party. What you did is create a second African party. Now, you don't expect those people who vote for Win to say, look, I'm voting for Win because I'm creating a second Black party. That's not how life operates. That's my job. That's our job. Scholars, activists, to interpret what the people have done. The outcome of the vote is the creation of a second Black party. And the Black party that is led by an Indian, the leader of the Indian party, Jack Dio, said, I ain't working with him. I want to work with the other Black party that I know. I'm not too sure of this one. And it's headed by an Indian man like him. But he's saying, I prefer to work with the other one that's headed by a Black man. Sisters and brothers, comrades, This is the kind of analysis and teaching that I am interested in, trying to make sense, trying to use my own experience as a teacher to try to us to understand what has just happened. The challenge for Muhammad is whether he in fact understands what he has gotten himself into. He will have to now become a leader of black people. He's not leading Indians. That's a fact of life. He's leading a bunch of black people. I don't mean to be funny, because it's serious. He will have to decide whether he has what it is to lead black people. Time will tell. He's not leading Indian people. Indian people stay with the PPP. He's leading mostly black people with some native Indians. But the vast majority of his 109,000 votes are black people. He has become a leader of black people, of African Guyanese. That's a fact. Anybody who doubts that, they're lying to you, because it's right there before your face. I am willing to help Muhammad. He got to learn. First of all, he got to learn black people sociology. He got to learn black people history. He got to learn. He got to learn. I'm willing to give him a reading list. This is fascinating, comrades. Our young people could not know that's what they were. Their vote would eventually lead to. We could not see it. But that's what we're dealing with. We have athletes, cricketers, tennis players, footballers. They're black. And they go out and they play sport. Then they don't go there and play, say, I'm a black man going out there and play. A few of them did. Muhammad Ali did. Vivian Richards did. These were sportsmen who went out there defending their identity, defending their history. But the vast number of sportsmen and women don't go there to represent any race. But what the race does is impose that burden on them. Serena Williams and Venus Williams, if you all remember, they weren't into race. But here were two black girls dominating a white elite sport. And when Africans saw that, Africans said, what they are proving is that when the rules of any game are fair, we could beat the world, we could be equal to the world. And they imposed blackness on Serena and Venus. And they over time come to realize the burden they were carrying. So Muhammad doesn't have to say, I am black. Those majority black young people have imposed blackness on him. And you know what is blackness? The fact that the majority of those young people know very well that they are vulnerable to extrajudicial killing, especially the poor inner city ones, Linden, Georgetown, where he got a lot of votes. Race for them is their vulnerability to extrajudicial killing. Because they have this color, they are more vulnerable to extrajudicial killing. They know that. They live it every single day. And that is what race is. They're more likely to go to prison. You go into prison. And the majority of them are poor inner city black men young black men, because of this skin color, they're more likely to be in jail. That is race. So when they tell you they're not voting race, understand that their consciousness doesn't bring those words, but they're voting race. They're saying to Muhammad, our vulnerability to imprisonment, our vulnerability to extrajudicial killing. We are the poor of the poorest. We are not working class. We are underclass. We are scrapeheads, people who barely scraping a living. And we know that we are the poorest of the poor. That is race, skin color. That is what race is, meaning to skin color. Vulnerable to police shooting you and killing you. Vulnerable to extreme poverty. Vulnerable to going to jail. So don't let anybody tell you that those young people don't have a racial bone in them and they're moving away from race. All they're doing is that they're saying to win, we think you are going to stand up for us more. I've been trying to talk to some of them. And one thing they say is that Dr. Hines, your party, your APNU didn't fight enough. You have to understand that resistance and fight is part of those young people reality. And if you want to lead them, you have to learn to put fight as part of your modus operandi. And they're saying, some of them have told me that Dr. Hines, you all show like you all want to get rid of the PPP. You all was soft with the PPP. And so we go to Muhammad because the PPP trying to get rid of Muhammad because Muhammad fighting them. Yeah, you see? No, that may be anecdote. But you start with anecdote and then you move in to see how that anecdote manifests itself. Is it widespread? Then it becomes more than anecdote. So I want to say to my sisters and brothers in the media, it's very difficult to listen to 1 hour program, pull out a paragraph, put it on social media. Nobody knows the context in which I said what I said. You didn't give the part in which I explained what voting patterns are. My neighbor, one of my neighbors, Anne, grew up with her, a little bit older than me. Big people know. My son hollered at me this afternoon, tell me a lady outside it to me. When I went out, it was Anne. She lived a couple doors down from me. She's big now, as we would say. And Anne said she come home, she been to clinic, she come home, she bathed her skin, and she was going to relax for the evening. And then she said, wait a minute, I'm supposed to go and congratulate David. And she made her way. She doesn't walk as fast as she used to be. She made her way over here to me. And we end up talking for almost an hour. And she reminisced that she knew me as a little boy coming up. And she said she came to congratulate me for going to Parliament because she grew up in this village and she knew the WPA and she knew those of us in the WPA, how we stand with people, whether they vote for we or they didn't vote for we. And that she felt that she knew me. She knows me. And she wants, in her old age, as she said, to be represented by me. And it moved me almost to tears. because of the consciousness that still resides among our people. And there are some fools who are saying, well, what David is going to Parliament for it all. you know. And nobody ain't got time for Ian. They vote for APNU, you know. They condemn APNU. They wanted the APNU to come off the map, but they want to decide who must go to Parliament for APNU. Let me say this to you, my audience. Aubrey Norton did not choose me. WPA had a memorandum of understanding with APNU. We had a pact before election, agreed to by the APNU and the WPA, that in the various scenarios, this is what would be offered to the WPA. And based on that understanding we had, and given the fact that we lost 2/3 of our seats, the leader of the APNU offered us 1 seat instead of the number that we had agreed on. And 1 out of 12, my friend and grow match, Brian Moses, who is a math expert, he said, really, that is 16%. That's all we have gotten. He offered us 1 seat, and the WPA asked me to occupy that seat, because what the WPA wants to do with Parliament, they argue internally that I am the best person to carry out the WPA's agenda at this time, and I accepted. So Norton didn't appoint me. So people say, Norton appoint a friend. Norton was left with 11. He gave WPA 1. He couldn't even give the other APNU parties any seat. All the WPA get is 1 parliamentary seat. We don't have any regional seat because in our understanding, we had asked for a certain number of regional seats. Given the scenario, again, we lost big. So WPA doesn't have any seats in the region, Region 4, Region 3, and Region 5, where we had candidates. So all we got from this is one parliamentary seat. And Norton did not appoint me. The WPA appointed me. And I'm going to Parliament to advance the APNU's agenda and also to advance the WPA agenda. We don't expect there to be a clash between the 2 agendas. No clash. Where we have differences with the APNU, it's an emphasis. The WPA wrote its own agenda for the election. The APNU wrote its own agenda. Some of the WPA's agenda items were incorporated into the APNU agenda. And there were no differences in the agenda in terms of ideology, in terms of worldview, in terms of outlook. It's more emphasis. I am a revolutionary. I never stop being one. Revolutionary means people who are in politics for transformation of society, not for tinkering, not for little band-aids, but to transform the society, revolutionize the society. You move from slavery to freedom, not from slavery to semi-slavery. The revolutionary is not satisfied with Guyana being the fastest growing economy in the world. The revolutionary says, how does that translate into the eradication of poverty? How does that translate into my sister, my mother, my daughter having to leave our house at night to go and watchman people while our children are left there vulnerable. How does this fastest growing economy take her out from the watchman walk to go home and watchman to children? The revolutionary moves beyond, and goes beneath the surface. That's what I take to Parliament. That's what I take to Parliament. I'm not interested, the WPA is not interested in cosmetic change. We are glad that Guyana is the fastest growing economy in the world, but we want to be glad and gladder that Guyana becomes the country that reduces poverty at the fastest rate. Just as fast as the economy is growing, poverty should reduce as fast as that. That's what a revolutionary is. And I am a revolutionary, and I come from a revolutionary tradition. I come from a revolutionary party. I go to Parliament as a teacher who taught government for 30 odd years. I know government works. I know how a parliament works. I know a National Assembly works. I know the legislative branch works. I know what is the relationship between legislative branch and the executive branch and the judicial branch. I bring knowledge. I learned it and I taught it. I go to Parliament as an expert on parliaments. And above all, I bring a passion in defense of the poor and the powerless. That's what my party, the WPA, is about. For me, the poor and the powerless, they're not just faces and votes. They're human beings. I come from there. Martin Carter said, I come from the nigger yard of yesterday. Leaping from the oppressor's hate and the scorn of myself. I do not scorn myself as some people want us to do. Leaping, I come from the nigger yard of yesterday. Leaping from the oppressor's hate and the scorn of myself. I turn to the histories of men and the lives of the people. That's what Martin Carter said, and that's what I stand by. Insofar as it's possible to do something to raise the poor and the powerless to one of wealth and prosperity and power, I am prepared to do that. That's what I'm going there for. And that passion and commitment to the poor is demonstrated. And so, this is just another aspect. We have been to Parliament before. Dr. Clive Thomas, Brother U.C. Guyana represented us with one seat, 1985 to 1990. Clive Thomas and Rupert Ryan represented us with one seat. They split it in two from 1992 to 1997. Sheila Older represented us from 1997 to 2006. Rupert Rupnarine represented us from 2015 to 2018. Tabitha Sarabo represented us from 2018 to 2020. I am going to Parliament to represent the politics and the example of a U.C. Guyana who dared in 1953 to look at the white authorities and say, this confounded nonsense must stop. I am going to Parliament to replicate and renew Guyana's. This confounded nonsense must stop. I'm going to Parliament to renew and replicate Walter Rodney's people's power, no dictator. He never had a chance to go to Parliament. And my going to Parliament is taken, as Brother Guyana said in 1985. When he went to Parliament, he said, I'm planting the banner of Walter Rodney in this Parliament. I am going to Parliament to renew the banner of Walter Rodney. People's power, no dictator. Clive Thomas, who's still with us, said, bread and justice are what the masses are after. He coined the term the poor and the powerless. I'm going to Parliament to plant Thomas's philosophy of bread and justice as the pillars of the lifting of poor people from powerlessness. I'm taking the banner of Rupert Roopnaraine, a tireless soldier of progressive politics, who said, if there is one dogma we should have, is that we cannot develop Guyana with one race. Guyana must be developed with both races and all the races. I go to Parliament to plant that philosophy of Rupert Roopnaraine. I've been in the valley with wonderful people in the WPA. Some of them are still in the party. Takumo Gunse, Dion Abrams, Kedaki Amsterdam, and others. Some of us are a little bit older. Some of us were there in the terrible times. Some have died. Some have moved on from politics. But the dream of a new Guyana, I take that to Parliament. This is not about me. As I said, I have books, some of them quarter way, halfway, three-quarter way. I'm now retired, if that's an announcement. I'm now retired. And often in retirement, what professors do is finish work that they couldn't finish when they were working. And that's what I plan to do. But duty calls. Duty calls. And I've been asked to lift up the burden of progressive politics in this country, to lift up the burden of revolutionary politics in this country. We are a tendency. Guyana is a plural society, ethnically, racially, and also a plural society ideologically. The ideology from which I come, we can loosely call it progressive, revolutionary, radical. Radical means getting to the roots. Radical don't mean better and bad. Of course, you know, the mighty Duke said, get on radical. Trinidadians, you know, they have a turn with the language, you know. But radical just don't mean get on bad alone. It means getting to the root, to the root. I'm a radical. I'm a revolutionary. I come from that tradition. I hold that badge proudly. We are one tendency. There are others who are moderates. There are others who are conservatives. There are others who don't have ideology. But if you don't have ideology, it's still an ideology. Because all that ideology means, that so-called big word, all it means is a set of cohesive ideas and thoughts about humanity and the world and about society. A set of cohesive thoughts about society. That's what ideology means. It's not a, you know, it's not big and scientific. And we are a society of multiple ideologies. I just represent one. And those who don't want to see people like me in parliament, they want to keep from the parliament radicals and revolutionaries. When Bob Marley said, I want to disturb my neighbor, he was being super revolutionary. I want to disturb my neighbor, meaning I want to get this society to look itself in its face and to ask, am I being true to our society? Just as those young people with their vote, whatever we think about their vote, those young Africans who voted for Win, they're asking us, lifting up before our faces ourselves and asking, have we been doing what is right? I take up that challenge. Thanks to the WPA for asking me to take that challenge up. As a revolutionary, the parliament for us in the Working People's Alliance, the parliament is not a building. The parliament is not a place, a physical place. The parliament is an idea. The parliament is something bigger than a building. The parliament is the parliament of the people. The people. And I'll be going around this country. And I hear my comrades in the APNU, led by Dr. Campbell, that we are going to come into the communities and all parliament in the communities. Because we not only debate among ourselves, but we must debate with our people. So we are moving on. Out of loss, out of a diminished representation, cometh a new and refreshed approach to politics. The WPA hears you. We wish we had 4 more parliamentarians, 5 more, but the reality dictates differently. But with one voice, we shall endeavor to join with our comrades in the APNU to force that assembly to become an assembly again. To try to bring something fresh. I am not going to parliament to talk about dildo. I'm not going to parliament to be cross-talking with, people who are idle. I have no interest in that. I have no interest in jeering anybody. I'm not going to parliament to do that. You will not find me engaging in that. I know they will jeer me and call names and so on, but I will tell them, meet me at Buxton Line Top. Come here and call me names. Come in Neighbor Stringberry, and where my Neighbor Stringberries, that's where I want to tangle with you. I'm not going to the People's Assembly to engage in that kind of thing. But I want to meet you on ancestral ground, so that me, you, and the ancestors, whoever you be, we can tangle and rumble there. We are what we are, and that's the way it's going to be. Something new, something positive will come out of this defeat. All strong. That's what Sparrow said, all strong. Don't give up. Let us try again. And in the end, we will succeed. I am happy to serve under the leadership of Dr. Campbell in the National Assembly. I've known him long before he decided to get into politics. He's a decent human being. He's a businessman, but he's a businessman with a conscience. He's not a businessman who's just about making money. And making money is not a bad thing. I want our people, all Guyanese of all races and classes, to make money. Dr. Campbell is a business person, but he's also a student of business. A student. He has a PhD, which means he took the time from making money to say, let me go and take this practical experience and make it something more than just making money, but make it something that teaches me how to make the linkage between making money and making a difference in society. And that's why I am honored to serve under him and to serve with all my other comrades who have come to know, some of them these last years, the PNC members, and some of the new ones I've come to know these past few months. Stay with us. Stay with us. And hold us responsible. Hold us responsible. We are what we are. And that's the way it's going to be. You can't educate us for no equal opportunity. Talking about my freedom, my people's freedom. That's what we are about. I am going to see you all tomorrow. Same time, same place. When we come back again to confront the realities of our time. All I have is my voice and my mind. All we have is ourselves. As individuals, we are nothing if we are not part of a collective. That's where the term identity comes from. The group with which you identify. When Admire makes 3 ducks in a row, I want to take my belt and cut is, you know what? You're talented. The ancestors have given you gifts. Be disciplined about it. When he makes 68 runs, expressing the finesse and the skill of an artist, I say, I'm not going to beat you today. When Moti spins his web, 5 for 21, I hug him. I love him. I am black. I'm Guyanese. I'm West Indian. And I come from the poor, the nigger yard of yesterday. And to the world of tomorrow, I turn with my strength. We turn with our strength. We are all in this thing together. And we're going to overcome, as we have always done.